Everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Requirements Engineering in the Mechanical World. This webinar is hosted by Denise Seidemann from PTC, who works there as a Principal Technical Sales Specialist. And we also have Elin Wegner, our Customer Success Manager here at PDSVISION. Now I will hand over to the first star of the day, Elin Wegner.
Hi and good morning, everyone. I will just share my screen. Okay, so let's get started with today's topic. With defects comes many types of costs, right? Defects are not free. Somebody makes them and gets paid for making them. Requirement management is essential for successful products, and enabling the traceability between the requirements and the validation and the design over the product lifecycle is so very important. I would like to begin with a short overview of what type of core activities there are within requirements management as an introduction of today's session. So it all begins with identify the business and the user needs, prioritize those needs, transfer the identified needs to the requirements of the system, and ensure traceability between needs and requirements. Communicate those system requirements to those who will design the system, and also validate and verify the system and trace back to the requirements. As you can see, there is a lot of dependencies between these. What happens if a need is changed or if a subsystem is redesigned? Managing this in a manual way will be very time-consuming and difficult as the product evolves and matures in its life cycle. In order to secure the traceability between requirements and the product design, we will have great value of a modern requirements management tool. And let us not forget the drivers to secure quality and compliance. You could say that life is full of requirements, right? Sometimes it can be overwhelming, but luckily we have Denise here today that will show us how Codebeamer can help, at least at work. So I'm really pleased to give the stage over to my colleague at PTC, Denise. A warm welcome to you.
Thanks a lot. Let me share my screen. So, also welcome from my side. I'm Denise Seidemann from PTC, and I would like to show you something today about Codebeamer and especially requirements management with Codebeamer. We start with some slides and then I will show you Codebeamer live in the system. So, I would like to show you the capabilities of Codebeamer in this slide. So for sure, the first part is requirement management, what is our main topic for today. But Codebeamer can do much more. We don't have the time to cover everything, but that's for an overview to give you the impression what Codebeamer can do. Also in terms of software engineering, and that is a very important point, because Codebeamer is called the ALM, Application Lifecycle Management Tool. And a lot of people think Codebeamer is only for products which have a lot of software in it. We have the integration to software configuration management tools like Git or Subversion, GitHub, but as we heard before, requirements are everywhere. So Codebeamer is not only for products which contain software, it's for all kinds of requirements, also mechanical requirements, electrical, electronic requirements. What is our topic today? Codebeamer can also cover the test management part. We will have a short look at that also today. So you can define test cases in Codebeamer and connect them directly with the requirements. You can also do the manual execution in Codebeamer, and if needed, so for example, a lot of our customers have external automation tools to execute test cases that can be done, and then the results can be brought back to Codebeamer to have the traceability and the reporting capability. Development operations. So Codebeamer is an open platform. We can integrate with other systems like automation platforms with Jenkins, or with other systems with our open interfaces. and, for example, automate processes like test execution, unit testings, for example. We also have the part risk management, so you can manage risk within Codebeamer, do, for example, the design FMEA in Codebeamer. And the advantage of doing that directly in Codebeamer is that you have the connection to the requirements. So a requirement which might lead to a risk, and define new requirements which mitigate those risks and test them again. Then we have the topic product line management. So there might be requirements which will be reused for different products, different variants, for example, and Codebeamer can also help with that. And the last part is the data analytics part, gathering data you have in the system in Codebeamer, doing traceability reports, dashboards, and something like that. I had a customer several years ago who told me they were using Word and Excel for requirement and test management, and they told me they need 2 days to prepare everything for a management dashboard, gathering the data, calling people from different departments, and making sure they have the up-to-date information. And Codebeamer can help with that because you have the data in the system and can simply press on a button and you have the data you need to do the management report, for example. Some more details about Codebeamer is the idea how we handle data models. So in the industry, there are different approaches to handle data models processes within the ALM tools. So there might be the decentralized process where every project works independent. So in this example, project 1 and 2, they can have complete independent data models. This means a lot of flexibility, but there, as mentioned here, there's no common process, no common nomenclature. It's very difficult to administrate that. There exists another approach, the global-centric approach, where you have one data model and every project is using that data model and working exactly the same. This is great. There's a common nomenclature, but you lose the flexibility a little bit because maybe project 1 is a simpler one, would like to have simpler processes than project 2, and that's very difficult with this global process approach. Codebeamer combines those approaches. That means you can define a global template where you define the data model, the attributes, the workflows, and every project can inherit from that template and work similar. But as you see here, this might be 80% what the projects need, and the last remaining 20% might need to change or be adapted from the project. That can be done with Codebeamer. So we have the combination of both approaches here. This leads to the next page where we have our predefined data model, what we offer with Codebeamer. We call them our templates, what we offer. This is a description, what is in the data model, in the different templates, the data model, the process, and some things like automation, which can happen in the background. So we offer something, for example, for the automotive industry, which covers the ISO 26262, or also for cybersecurity development. Then we have templates more for the medical development, aerospace and defense, and we have more general templates like the HR waterfall hybrid template, which will be our base for today, where we have classical approaches, like we have 2 levels of requirements, our product requirement, mechanical requirements, software requirements as an example, but also more HR approaches like user stories, for example, Kanban boards, what can be used here. We also promised to show a connection to PLM, and that's why we have here the V model. So starting with the requirements, which can be managed in Codebeamer. There might be also another part. So if you're thinking about doing system modeling with a language called SysML, or software modeling with a language called UML, we also provide something. This is the PTC modeler to do the more visual approach, to do the creating diagrams, creating network of information, maybe also doing code generation. Then when it comes more to the engineering BOM, where you have the product structure, we are on the PLM side, on the Winches side. Maybe if you have software, I didn't put a name here because you can manage the software, as mentioned, Git, Subversion, GitHub, and other systems. There might be third-party systems which need to be integrated, and when you come on the upper right side, we have the testing part. The main important thing about this slide is there is no real single source of truth. You will always have different engineering systems for different functionalities. We call it more or less the federated single source of truth, where you have different systems like a requirement management system like Codebeamer, a PLM system like Windchill. And the main important point is to connect the data. And we are doing that with a standard code called OSLC, Open Services for Lifecycle Collaboration. This is a standard which creates live links between different engineering systems. In our case, we will see an example where we have a link from a part in Windchill directly to the requirement in Codebeamer. And with that, we will have a look live into Codebeamer. So Codebeamer is fully web-based. So you see here an overview of the different projects I have in Codebeamer. And as mentioned, every project can have a totally different data model. We want to develop today a digital audio player. Let's go in that project. And you might see the green toolbar here. So this is the project dependent toolbar, and the orange one is project independent. When we open a project, we will come to the wiki page. And in our template in the wiki page are the standard and norm, which we refer to described. So here in this case, the standard V model is described a little bit with links to external sources like Wikipedia here in this case, and the agile development process is also described here. So you can define those wiki pages as you like, define the product you're defining here, how you're doing requirements elicitation for the requirements engineering process, how you want to handle requirements. We also have here an example of sustainability requirements. These can also be managed in Codebeamer. And we have dashboards and reports. We have here an example of our test cases we have in our system. And for our digital audio player, I only executed one test case. In this case, test case failed. We will do the execution during our presentation today, and this will change a little bit. And we come back to this page later, and then I will give you also some information about the traceability report. When we are on the tracker page, this is more or less the heart of Codebeamer, where we have the containers for our data. It reflects the data model. Let me show you that in the configuration diagram. We don't need the ESG requirements for today, but we're starting with the product requirements, breaking down the product requirements into, in this example, mechanical requirements, software requirements, could be more. And then we do the testing. We have many mechanical test cases, software test cases for the different requirements. And this is the data model which reflects there can be a link from the mechanical test cases to the requirements and then to the product requirements. Here see also two examples of dashboards or reports. The requirements by their status, so the product requirements, how many of my product requirements are in state new, for example, or in state draft, and the same for the mechanical and the software requirement. You see, this is based on a report I created, so this can be easily adapted. If you want to have the report a little bit different, then this can be easily done. And here's another example, the requirement coverage, where we see how many of my mechanical requirements are already covered by at least one test case, and how many of my software requirements covered by a test case. Just as one example, how the data can be represented within Codebeamer. So when we start with the product requirements, we see on the left side the structure of the product requirements. Here in the middle, the main content, and let me click on one of those requirements. So here we see the main content, and here we see the other attributes which are defined for this requirement, like assigned user, or who submitted the requirement, who modified the requirement, for example. You might see here we have different colors of the requirements. You also see that here in the outline. This reflects the status of the requirement. You can see when I go to the equalizer, I have this little pencil, and I can simply make a change on the requirement. So let's put change here and save the requirement. This is why because the requirement is still in state draft, in a kind of open state. When I go to the storage, I cannot change the requirement directly. Again, this is just one example how it can look like and how it is implemented in this example template. And if I want to change that, I can see here I have links to other elements within CodeBeamer, like a change request. Let me open the change request in a new tab for a second. So a change request telling me, okay, an external storage is needed for our digital audio player and discard a SD card reader. So let's do that. And that's a great thing because I have a proper change management within CodeBeamer. I can go back later and know why I changed something. So maybe one thing, here I have a mechanical requirement which is linked with my product requirement, and the suspected flag is grayed out right now. If I change the requirement, also the suspect flag will change. So let me put that external storage is needed and just save that. So I changed the status and the text of the requirement. As you can see here, our mechanical requirement got the suspected flag. This was one of the most important points for me. That's why I'm pointing it out. I did 2 years requirements management with Word and Excel. We defined the requirements in Word, the test cases in Word, and then the development started. As always, I was in a hurry in the project. The developer called me and told me we need to change the requirement a little bit. I changed the requirement. 1 month later, I tested the requirement, but the test case didn't fit to the result the software was giving me. So I went back to the requirement, checked the requirement, and yeah, I don't remember why I changed the requirement. After some time of investigation, I remember that there was a phone call, but this little suspect marker helps. So we have the change request as the first thing to know what needs to be changed, to do an impact analysis, for example, and then this little suspect marker that I don't forget to change the remaining object. In this case, it's a mechanical requirement. We will see the same example a little bit later with a test case. So if I click on the suspected flag, I get an overview, and when I go to the changes, CodeBeamer shows me exactly what has changed. So I can check if I need to adapt the mechanical requirement or the test case, whatever is directly linked with this requirement. So we want to extend the storage a little bit, and that's why I want to link a new mechanical requirement to this product requirement. I'm going here to the library. I'm working in the same project, my digital audio player, and I'm going directly to the mechanical requirements. I have here something prepared, a micro SD card requirement, which I can directly link with my storage. And if I go back to the details page, I see now I have 2 linked mechanical requirements. So when I jump to this requirement, I see only a selection. If I want to see the whole document structure, I simply click on the arrow. And as you can see here, we are now in the mechanical requirement, so 1 level further. But the handling is still the same. We have the structure on the left side, a little bit like in Word. We have the main content and the different attributes on the right side. If I go to my micro SD memory card, I'm changing the requirement. As you can see, still in state new, I can easily make a change. I want to use 2 micro SD cards. Just doing my change here. As you can see here, there's a linked test case, and this test case just get the same flag like the mechanical requirement before. Because I changed the requirement, the flag suspect will be raised. But there's also one other thing I want to point out here. That's the connection to Windchill as promised. I see here external linked items showing me there's a link from an external system, in this case Windchill, pointing to the requirement. I get some information here. If I click on the icon, I get a preview page of Windchill. This is all live data. So CodeBeamer is gathering the data directly from Windchill. If there's a preview, I can directly see more information of my SD card reader slot. And if I need more information, I can directly jump to Windchill. This is now based, as mentioned, on the technology OSLC here, what is used in the background. And if I want to get more information, as mentioned, I can directly jump to Windchill. So I'm now here on this Similar page, so the info page, which I got a second ago in CodeBeamer. And if I want to get more information about the trace, I go to the Structure tab. There I see the structure in Windchill. And in addition to that, I see the 2 requirements, why I created a link. We had a suspect flag before, and now we see the suspect flag also in Windchill because my requirement just changed with the 2 micro SD cards, which should be used. This might have an influence on my design here. I might also need to change something. So maybe start a change process based on that requirement change now on the Windchill side. So this is the suspect flag, suspect alert I got because the requirement has changed. And if I want to get more information about the requirement, I get it here with this kind of preview. And if I want to know what exactly has changed, I can jump to the requirement in CodeBeamer. Now I'm on a details page of a requirement where I see all the attributes and, for example, the history of the requirement. So every time I change an object in CodeBeamer, requirement, test case, for example, it will be documented here, and I can always have an overview what has changed and also who did the change. Okay, now we go back to our design here because we now want to do the testing. So we are under mechanical requirements. I have a linked test case. Let's jump to the test cases. Show me the whole structure here. And again, similar handling. We're in a document view for our mechanical test cases. We have the structure here, the main content, and the attributes. For sure, some other attributes for the testing part, but same handling. So we have, for example, some tests here, and the test case can have several test steps which need to be executed. So we want to connect, for example, our digital audio player with our computer, check if everything works, and then record the audio, for example. So let's use those 2 test cases. So let's move that to the status accepted. Because normally I would say you only should execute test cases when they're in an accepted state. I do that manually here for those 2, but for sure we also have a mass edit to do that for more of the test cases, or proper review can take place before. So let's execute those test cases. I'm doing that in a quick way, just making a right click on those test cases and generate a test run. We also have objects for doing the test management, the test planning, but we don't have this time today, so we just want to run those 2 test cases. I need to do that, so I'm assigning that to me and simply click on Save. Then a new test run is generated for me. I jump to the test run before I execute it. So we see I need to execute 2 test cases. The test run is ready for execution, and I can now simply run it. So for the first one, I don't have any test steps, so I say, okay, this is passed. And now we have our second test case with the test steps we have seen before. So I need to connect the device to the computer. Okay, that worked. The SD card is properly seated. Okay, and as you can see, if I click on pass test step or pass step, the expected result is just copied to the actual result. If I enter anything, for sure my result will remain, but CodeBeamer is copy pasting that. If more information is needed, you can also link data or upload files, for example, screenshots, error protocols, or something like that. So we launched the recording software, and then audio is not captured. So this test case failed, and I say the remaining failed too. If at least one test step failed in the execution, CodeBeamer asks me if I want to report a bug. I'm doing that now. I can then create a new bug or attach an existing bug. I want to create a new, and a lot of information I directly copying to the bug. We will see that yet now in a second. So it is assigned to, because I was the assignee of the test run, and I get the information about the different test steps, their results, and where it exactly failed. So I can directly say, save that. And I can make a conclusion, write something about the test execution, but I'm fine for now. Just click on Save. And now the status is finished. One test case failed, one test case failed and one test case passed. And I have the detailed information here about the test results. So about the passed test case, the failed test case, and where it failed, and the linked bug, for example. Now we go back to our overview, to our wiki page, to the project state. And now you can see 2 test cases failed. We had one before and one passed. So this is directly updated for me. And if we have a look at the traceability report here, make that a little bit bigger, I see the whole traceability from the structure. Here from the product requirement, we had a requirement regarding storage, to the summary for our mechanical requirements. There might be also software requirements, but I did not link any software requirement yet. Then to the corresponding test cases, and then also to the test run with the corresponding result. So we have all the traceability. Also see if something is getting to suspect because something has changed. You can also create a report of that or send an email notification to the assigned user who is responsible for those requirements, test cases, for example. But this gives a lot of power to see the whole traceability here. And if you change something here, you will see that directly reflected with the suspect markers. Okay, that's it from my side. Thanks a lot, and we're happy to answer questions.
Perfect. Let's start with the first one here. About reporting bugs, is it possible to report bugs directly into other systems like Jira, where other teams are dealing with them?
Yeah, so CodeBeamer has an out-of-the-box integration to Jira. So this is a synchronization connectivity. You can, for example, create a bug in CodeBeamer and then synchronize it back to Jira and then handle the bug in Jira or the other way around. So yes, that's possible.
Great. And then we move on to the next question. In the demo, if your demo was an end user implementation end result / system, how much configuration and customization would have been needed from the default installation?
Okay, so most of that what we have seen today is out of the box provided by the template. So normally when you start with CodeBeamer, you can start with one of the templates and you don't have to, in theory, you don't have to do anything because you get all the objects what we see here and the workflows in the background. Normally you would say, okay, the workflow is good, but we might need to change a little bit, have a new state or a new transition or something like that, and that can be changed. But you can very quick and easy start with CodeBeamer.
Great. And the next one we have is if one already has requirements in Word or Excel, can they be imported?
So we also have an import and also export capability for Office. So you can import requirements from Word or Excel. So you don't have to start from scratch and type in all the requirements here. You can easily start with the Word document, import those requirements, and then you can start there. We also support the standard requirement, RecIF, requirement interchange format, which is a standard to exchange requirements between different requirement management tools. And sometimes sometimes customers send out the requirements in this format, and then you can very easily exchange those kind of information. So both is possible.
Perfect. And we can have a last question here. Can project management also be done in CodeBeamer?
Yeah, I'm always very sad when I cannot show every functionality in CodeBeamer. We also support project management in CodeBeamer, so you can do it the more agile way. So define in releases what you want to plan in releases with a product backlog, for example, and then do the timing in Gantt charts and do the whole planning with Kanban boards and so on. So this is a great capability in CodeBeamer, which we don't have seen today, but if you're interested, we can also have a more deep dive session into that.
Perfect. And I think we will round up here. I want to thank you to Denise for presenting today and to you as well, Elin. And thank you everybody who participated today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to any of us, and you will receive the recording of this webinar tomorrow. So it's a nice Saturday surprise. So thank you again for presenting, and I wish you all a really nice weekend. So, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Bye, thank you.